A few weeks ago we met winter aconite, and you may remember that one of the most interesting things about winter aconite is the way in which the advertising function of the petals has been taken over by the sepals, and the petals themselves have been transformed into little nectar flasks, the nectaries. Now, that evolutionary tendency is found in several groups within the buttercup family to which winter aconite belongs. But nowhere is it better seen than in the hellebores, of which there are about 20 species, 10 of them native to European woods. And here with us in the Midlands, 2 species occur in the wild. They're not native to Ireland, but they often escape from gardens or from garden centres. And the more common one of these 2 is stinking hellebore, or setterwort, which we looked at in one of our videos a couple of years ago. And this is the other much less common species, the green hellebore, or as it is sometimes appropriately called in English, green Lenten rose. Here are the 5 sepals that have taken over the function of the petals. And although they look green to us, the bumblebees that pollinate the flowers see them as yellow. The flowers are protogynous, which means that 3 carpels mature first, taking up position 3 to 4 millimeters in front of the anthers and filling the entrance to the inverted bell-shaped flower. In this first stage, you can see the way the styles radiate outwards, so that a visiting bee has to brush against the 3 stigmas, on which it will deposit any pollen it may have picked up on a somewhat older flower that has reached the second male stage of development. But now, once fertilization has taken place, the styles straighten out again and move back towards the centre of the flower and project further out. And the stamens expand and move into that same space above the nectaries previously occupied by the stigmas. As the flower passes into its second male stage, it expands. The width of the opening doubles from 1 to 2 centimeters to accommodate the bunch of anthers now occupying the entrance instead of the stigmas, which by now project out of the way in front of the flower above the visiting bees. The stamens mature 1 row at a time centripetally, in other words, from the outside in, but in a very subtle way. When the anthers split to expose their pollen, they do so facing the space between the green sepals and the central cluster of not yet ripe stamens. This means that any insect pushing through to reach up to the nectar flasks must brush against them. Then, as each row of stamens withers, and remember they mature 1 row at a time from the outside in, it gets out of the way of the next row in line. And this is a lovely clump of the other species of hellebore that you sometimes find in the wild. This is stinking hellebore, and these plants weren't actually planted here. They grew here spontaneously from seed, because stinking hellebore propagates itself fairly freely from seed. If you can't get your hands on stinking hellebore, it's well worth paying a visit to a garden or garden centre this time of the year, because there are many species and varieties of hellebore on display at this relatively flower-starved time of year. And the different species and varieties show great variation in the size and structure of the nectary, so it's well worth making the effort to make that visit. And in spite of the fact that the hellebores are seriously poisonous because they contain dangerous cardiac glycosides, the plants, particularly stinking hellebore, was widely used for a whole variety of complaints in times past. And we talked about these in some detail in our earlier video. For example, one sarcastic physician remarked concerning the use of stinking hellebore as a treatment, using the powdered leaves to treat worms in children. He said, "If it killeth not the patient, it will most certainly kill the worms. And the worst of it is that it sometimes will kill both."